so much for joining me for another episode of 10 Minute Tuesday. If you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe. Today, I got my good friend Sara on here. Sara, what's going on?
Not much. Living the dream.
Awesome. So we've done a number of these. So Sara, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Sara Coyne. I worked with Sekou in a prior life, and I'm currently working in the financial services industry, leveraging Tableau and all the other analytics tools y'all are used to working with as well. So
Great. Yeah, me and Sara worked together at former life, Levelitics company. Did some great stuff. She was one of my reports, I guess, managers. Even though I feel like I report to y'all, everybody's running around with their head cut off. But it was a great time. So think about your journey, right? You mentioned Tableau, but then you did a number of things and worked with a number of tools. What really compelled you to get into data to begin with?
Gosh, I love talking about this. So when I was just about to graduate from college, I had an internship right at the very end of my college in my undergrad degree. And I was kind of sitting on a random team. We were doing a random job, but it was at one of the bigger financial services companies here in San Diego. My degree was in finance, so I'm like, okay, I'm going to take it and try to just like see what I can do. Ended up finding some cool ways to leverage data within that job that didn't really require it, but at the time I was taking a business statistics course, so I was learning how to use tools like SAS and really getting into like the business analytics. So I wanted to see how I could leverage that in my internship. So I started to do that kind of on the side. And then truly the guy that sat next to me at the next desk over, he was like, hey, we're standing up like a reporting and analytics team. You like Excel, right? And I'm like, if you're going to give me a job, I love it. Yeah, it's great. So that was kind of my parlay into analytics. I think I thought that I was going to be like a financial advisor or something more in like the finance specific realm. But yeah, he kind of picked me up and brought me over to the team, and he's my boss again today. So
Wow, full circle.
yeah, yeah, it's wonderful. He's just the
That's
best and has taught me so much. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. So,
yeah.
yeah, it's really cool the journey and that he's your boss again now, like actively, which is like really cool. So this question is not towards him because you work for him again. So
Yeah.
thinking about this journey and everything that you've done, what's been your least favorite job to date? And it doesn't necessarily have to be data related, just a job you had in your career that you was just like, this was the worst thing ever.
Yeah. Probably less in the sense that it was like the worst thing ever, but more so I definitely learned a big lesson. I took a role at a company after I left that first job that I had, and it was in a new industry, and I was really excited about learning a new industry. And at the time, that company was looking for like BI and analytics subject matter expertise. They didn't really have that on their team. So it was a cool opportunity to go build that from scratch, essentially, which was really cool. After having worked somewhere for 7 years, that was like really well established, and I felt like it was my opportunity to be a little bit like entrepreneurial almost. I could like build it out, coach some people up, and get their team up to speed. But at the end of the day, it just really was not the right opportunity for me. And it was a struggle every day. You know, you kind of get through that onboarding period where it's always tough to learn new things, especially when you've been in another role for a long time. You think, oh, this is just like those bumps that you go through. Um, but after 18 months, I really came to terms with the fact that it just was not the right opportunity for me. And it was a daily struggle, I think, to try to find like where my place was. And it never felt right. So less that it was like bad in terms of like, I had great leadership. I learned so much about being a leader from that role and the expectations that that company had for its leaders, which really had a huge impact on me in a positive way. But I think just the fact that it like definitely did not jive with me or my skill set, and I never really found that like sweet spot, would make it probably the worst job
Yeah,
I've had.
yeah, those are tough when there's like there's that period where I won't call it the honeymoon phase, but you're learning, right? You're kind of dating, you're kind of figuring it out, and
Yeah.
then if it just doesn't click for whatever reason, whether it's you internal, external, whatever an environment is, it's just like, dang man,
Yeah.
there's so much not optimism, but there is so much potential here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
for this
definitely.
to work.
And I was really excited to learn. I learned so much about the industry and all of that through it. So I'm so like still happy that I did take the opportunity. But yeah, I think there's a little bit of like disappointment too, where you're like, I really wanted it to be something, and when it's not, and I had to like bring that on myself. I'm like, oh, you, maybe made the wrong choice, or that kind of thing. But I think as long as you learn something, obviously.
Got it. So this actually leads into our next question, which is awesome. So what is your biggest failure, quotation marks around failure, and what did you learn from that experience?
Yeah, I think honestly, if I'm being honest with myself, it's something that's still ongoing all the time. As a manager and as a person who wants to coach people in their careers, and um, also wanting to treat people like people. And there's kind of this balance, right, between like professional and personal when you're a manager. And a lot of the stuff that you take on from people in things like one-on-ones is their personal stuff too, right? Like they're having a bad day or bad week, bad month, whatever that looks like. So you have to be really, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, you have to be really intentional of like how you respond to that and how much of it you take in, and be really good at filtering some of that. So I think my biggest failure, I would probably say, is being a little too on like the personal and like friendship side, and letting that drive my leadership style a little bit. In some ways good, in some ways not. I think it can create like different dynamics and things. You just have to be really careful. And I tend to just want to be everybody's friend and like just kick it. And sometimes you have to be like, okay, no, this is like professional time and serious. And because, you eventually are going to have tough conversations with people, or even do reviews and things like that. And it needs to sort of maintain that level of professionalism and like hierarchy, almost not in like a being over people kind of way, but I think there is a necessary balance with that. So I continue because I have seen and felt myself sort of fail at that in the past. It's something that I actively talk myself through, like almost on a daily basis. Like, okay, where is this line? How do you balance? So I'm a work in progress, that's for sure.
And I feel that a lot. Like I understand it. It's like it's a delicate dance, sweet spot balance because you don't want to be a robot and it's a transactional relationship where you're trying to get people to to push themselves or to do whatever. Right? You don't want to make them feel like they're just a head count or a number or anything. Like you gotta get to know these people. But at the same time, right, you gotta cut the switch on. Like, hey,
Yeah.
like I need you to do this regardless of how this makes you feel. There's a reason for it, and yeah, I've in my leadership journey as well. Like it's a delicate balance. It's a delicate
Yeah.
balance, and it takes time and effort because certain people might not need it either, right? Certain people might just need like the transaction, like they don't want to
Yeah.
get to know you. So
Absolutely. Another part of that like failure and growth, right? Where I'm like, hey, what's going on? And sometimes people are like,
yeah,
like they just want to talk about work and get out.
yeah,
So that's fine too.
like
Yeah.
what do I need to do? 8 to 5, I'm out. Like
Exactly.
that's it. Awesome, awesome. Okay, so the some of the audience for this particular are people who are trying to break in the industry or get into data. So, what is one piece of advice you give someone who's just starting out in their career?
Oh yeah. I feel like this has changed over the years too. Of like what I would probably have said 3 years ago is different than what I would say now. But honestly, I feel like there's so many tools and like resources out there to get people started. It can be so overwhelming, especially the way that analytics has kind of blown up over the last, say, 10 years. It used to be, oh my gosh, learn SQL, learn, these more technical and kind of like focus on the coding and that kind of thing. Now I think if you pick a tool and kind of like get into the depths of it, you can't go wrong, because every organization is going to have a different flavor of that, whether they are using Power BI or Tableau or Sigma or whatever it is. Once you get those fundamentals down of kind of how those BI tools work, not only on the front end, but on the back end as well. So I would say, well, I think the need to be like a SQL guru is becoming less and less every day, you do need to understand data modeling and efficiency and performance and all of that kind of stuff. So when you're bringing data into your tool, how is it working? How does that compute happen? All of those things. So I think if you pick a tool and kind of go as deep as you can with it, back end, front end, all of the ends, learn it inside and out, that you'll then at least have a basis of understanding, if you do work in an organization that uses a different tool, the concepts are there. So you're going to understand a lot more than I think if you try to like learn SQL and learn like kind of piecemeal it together. So I think that would be my top recommendation is pick a tool that seems really cool and learn as much as you can about it.
I love that. I love that. And it's like hyper focused too, because like you said, especially now with all this content and blogs and
Yeah.
influencers, whatever, right? LinkedIn and everything. Like everybody feels like they just know it all, but it's just like, and it's overwhelming, right? It's just like you
Yeah.
don't know where to start. So I love the focus of like, just start there, pick it, understand it, and then,
Yeah.
apply that to something else if you want to learn something else. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah. I think it's also, yeah, that's a really good point. It's so easy to get overwhelmed. I mean, when I look at LinkedIn, right, I've been doing this for at least 10 years at this point, and I still get like, oh my gosh, you get really bad imposter syndrome from like seeing what everybody else is doing, and I don't know enough. And, now we have AI out there, and it's like, I think it really does help to keep your focus on something that feels more manageable, where like you don't need to learn how to like, or you don't need to know tomorrow how to like build a GPT or know everything about AI. There's so much to know and it's impossible. So
It is.
I think having that small focus, yeah, really helpful.
Love that. Love that. All right, Sarah, tell me about the most influential people in your life and how they made an impact on you.
Oh my goodness. Well, definitely the guy that I mentioned that brought me into my first role back in the day, and now is my boss again. His name is Joe. He'll be so embarrassed that I called him out, but he is truly just the best mentor. He has been so influential in my career. Even today, when we're working on things, he's an idea guy. He's definitely like, we can do this. And he keeps all that stuff flowing. And it really pushes me to be like, oh yeah, like that is cool. I get very focused on my day to day and tend to kind of like duck down into that, but he's very good at that like higher level thinking. And I have learned so much from him. Now we've worked together for, I don't know, combined 5 years of the 10 I've been doing this. So he's definitely my biggest mentor. Yeah, that's a really important one. Who else? I would definitely say my parents, even though that seems like very corny. We Neither of my parents went to college. Definitely like grew up very working class family, and I feel like now when I see how my parents like view my brother as well, my brother has a master's degree and went on to continuing education, all of that, the way that they like look at us and are so proud, that inspires me to, I feel like, keep always looking for the next thing. So um yeah, they inspired me in that way too. So those are like corny answers, my mentor and my parents, but truly the best people out there.
No, that was a great answer. You gotta have a
Yeah.
mentor. Like
Yeah.
they help guide you to get to where you need to be faster because they dealt with a lot of things and the
Yeah.
mentors are needed. And shout out to the parents, man. Parents are great. They're awesome.
My folks are the best.
Yeah. Even though it was last year, right? Notre Dame TSU, y'all hung out
Yeah.
and beat us down by like 1,000.
But the game was so fun, and I got
Yeah.
to watch the really cool halftime show. It was amazing.
Shout out to
So,
TSU. Shout out to Notre Dame in the
yeah.
building. All right, Sarah, where can listeners find you at online?
You can find me online, mostly LinkedIn. I do have a very small community on LinkedIn called Coining Confidence. Um, I'll provide the information to say you can keep that
Yeah,
in
I'll
there if
post
you
it
want.
somehow.
Yeah, but it's very small right now, so come join along. I'm just starting to get things going, but mostly on LinkedIn, just under my normal name here, and that's really it. I don't do big social media otherwise, but
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for being on this episode. I gotta get this on wax. It was great working with you at Analytics. You were like one of my favorite people to work with, so it was super awesome, and it was great
the
catching up with
feeling's
you too.
mutual.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was great catching up with you at the conference too. So it was awesome.
Yes, so good to see you.
Awesome. And if you haven't already, like I said in the beginning, please like, share, and subscribe. And we'll talk to y'all next week. Have a great day.